A young woman walks home on a quiet winter night in Missoula, Montana. Her boots crunch against fresh snow. She doesn't know someone is following her. A shadow closes in. A scream pierces the night. Then silence. By sunrise, her body is found in the woods, just a mile from her apartment. But what happened next shocked everyone. Her name was Emily Parker, 24 years old. A nursing student with a reputation for kindness. The prime suspect? Ryan Caldwell, her ex-boyfriend. A man described by friends as charming until he wasn't. The setting, Missoula. A small mountain city where people leave their doors unlocked, and neighbors know each other's names. This wasn't just another crime. It shattered the illusion of safety in a place that felt untouchable. And as we unravel this case, you'll see why investigators still call it one of the most heartbreaking murders they ever worked. We post daily. Subscribe so you never miss a case. Emily Parker's story begins like so many others in small-town Montana, with big dreams tucked into the quiet folds of mountain life. She grew up in Bozeman, where winters painted the town white and summers pulled people outside to hike, fish, and lose themselves in the endless sky. From childhood, Emily carried two constants: kindness and determination. She was the girl who helped neighbors shovel snow, who tutored classmates struggling in biology, who swore that one day she'd become a nurse. By 24, she was well on her way. Enrolled at the University of Montana's nursing program in Missoula, Emily's future seemed bright. Her professors admired her discipline. Her peers admired her warmth. She worked part-time at a local cafe, where regulars say she never forgot an order or a name. Friends joked that she had a heart too big for her own good. That generosity extended into her love life. 2 years earlier, she met Ryan Caldwell. At first glance, Ryan was everything Emily thought she wanted: handsome, adventurous, and endlessly confident. They met at a friend's bonfire on the banks of the Clark Fork River. He lit fireworks that night, and Emily said it felt like sparks carried over into their lives. They became inseparable. Hiking trips to Glacier National Park. Weekend drives with music loud and windows down. Sunset photos where Emily's smile filled the frame. But over time the image cracked. Ryan's charm hit a temper. A slammed door here. A jealous question there. Emily brushed it off. "He's just intense," she'd say. Friends noticed her excuses multiplied as bruises did. "I tripped on the stairs. I bumped into a counter." She rarely spoke about the arguments, but the silence around her said more than words. By fall of 2019, Emily ended the relationship. She wanted to focus on her degree, her career, her peace. Ryan didn't take it well. First came the pleading texts, "We belong together." Then the late-night calls. Then the uninvited appearances. He waited outside her classes. He sent cryptic messages to her friends. More than once, he told people that if Emily wasn't with him, she wouldn't be with anyone. Emily tried to move forward. She volunteered at the hospital. She joined a study group. She told herself she was free. But fear crept in. Friends recall her scanning parking lots, walking faster to her car at night, laughing nervously when she said she felt watched. She changed her locks. She shared her location with a close friend. Still, she didn't want to believe Ryan was dangerous. December came, and with it, Missoula's first heavy snow. On the evening of the 14th, Emily attended a holiday gathering with classmates. She wore a red sweater, laughed politely, but seemed quieter than usual. At 9:30, she hugged her friends goodbye. "Text us when you're home safe," one said. Emily promised she would. That message never came. And within hours, the life that once lit up every room in Missoula would vanish into the cold night. The night of December 14th settled over Missoula like a heavy quilt of silence. Snowflakes drifted under the streetlights as Emily Parker left the holiday gathering. She walked alone, her boots crunching the frozen ground, her breath forming small clouds that vanished into the dark. She pulled her coat tighter, head slightly bowed against the chill. The route home was familiar. Just under a mile from her friend's apartment to her own. A stretch of road lined with pine trees, a few shuttered shops, and an empty park where swings swayed idly in the wind. But this night was different. Someone was waiting. A figure emerged from the shadows near the edge of the park. Witnesses later said they heard a woman's voice, sharp, startled, then pleading. One neighbor, lying awake in a second-floor apartment, described it as a scream that cut the cold air in half. It lasted only seconds before silence reclaimed the street. By dawn, Emily's friends realized she hadn't checked in. Calls went unanswered. Messages showed as delivered but never read. One friend drove to her apartment and found her car still parked outside. Panic rose. Police were contacted. and by 8 a.m. a search began. It didn't take long. Less than a mile from her apartment, under a snow-covered embankment in Greenough Park, a passerby spotted what looked like fabric in the brush. It was Emily's red sweater. Moments later, officers uncovered her body. She was lying on her side, snow dusting her hair, as though she had been placed there deliberately. The crime scene told a violent story. Struggle marks in the snow. A broken bracelet near her hand. Bruises on her arms where someone had held her down. Yet there was no sign of robbery. Her purse was intact. Her phone was missing. News spread quickly. By noon, Missoula was buzzing with fear and grief. A murder like this hadn't shaken the city in years. Students at the university gathered in hushed circles, whispering Emily's name. Parents called their children, warning them not to walk alone. Detectives canvassed the area. One woman recalled seeing a tall man in a dark hoodie lingering near the park that night. Another reported hearing footsteps behind her as she walked home, only to look back and see no one. The leads were thin, but one name surfaced immediately: Ryan Caldwell. When officers arrived at Ryan's apartment later that day, he opened the door calmly as though he'd been expecting them. He claimed he'd been home all night watching movies. He even showed them his Netflix history. But his demeanor raised eyebrows. Cold, detached, almost rehearsed. Meanwhile, Emily's family was notified. Her mother collapsed when she heard the words. Her father's voice broke as he tried to process the unthinkable. They had trusted Missoula to be safe. Now it was a place marked forever by loss. As night fell on December 15th, candles lit up the university campus in a vigil. Friends clutched each other, voices shaking as they shared stories of Emily's kindness. But behind the grief was a sharper edge: fear and the need for answers. And investigators were about to uncover the first clue that would tear Ryan's alibi apart. From the start, detectives knew time was their enemy. The first 48 hours would make or break the case. Emily Parker's murder was brutal but not random. That much was clear. The first suspect remained obvious: Ryan Caldwell. He had motive, he had history, and he had obsession written all over him. But investigators needed more than suspicion, they needed evidence. Ryan's alibi looked neat on paper. He insisted he had been at home, streaming movies on Netflix from 9 p.m. until after midnight. He even pulled up his account history. But when detectives subpoenaed the data, something didn't add up. The timestamps were correct, yes, but the logins came from Ryan's laptop, closed and idle on his desk when police arrived. It suggested one thing: someone else could have accessed his account remotely, or Ryan had manipulated the records. But then, lead detective Sarah Mendez recalled, we checked his phone records. At 9:45 p.m., the exact window when Emily disappeared, Ryan's cell pinged off a tower less than 500 yards from Greenough Park, the crime scene. His claim of being home unraveled in minutes. Still, investigators couldn't rush. They needed physical evidence. Forensic teams combed the park inch by inch. Underneath the snow, they discovered shoe prints. 2 sets. One belonged to Emily's boots. The other a larger size, consistent with a men's athletic shoe. They photographed, cast, and preserved them. But Ryan wasn't the only name floating in Missoula's rumor mill. Detectives received tips about another man, a graduate student named Mark Benson, who had shown interest in Emily at the cafe where she worked. Friends said he was persistent, often asking her out even after she politely declined. On the night of the murder, Mark admitted he was out for a walk near the same park. That coincidence couldn't be ignored. Detectives split their focus. They pulled security footage from businesses along Emily's route. Most cameras were blurred by snow, but one grainy video showed a figure in a hoodie trailing a woman matching Emily's description. The man's stride, long, purposeful, looked eerily like Ryan's. But then, another break came. Forensic teams recovered a single strand of hair clutched in Emily's hand. Dark, coarse, longer than hers. DNA testing began. Everyone waited. Meanwhile, Ryan's behavior drew more suspicion. He posted nothing on social media. He skipped Emily's vigil. And when detectives asked him to recount the night again, his story shifted slightly. First, he said he hadn't left the apartment. Later, he admitted he'd gone for a drive to clear his head. Pressure mounted. Search warrants were issued. In Ryan's car, police found dirt and pine needles consistent with the park terrain. More damning traces of blood on the floor mat. It was faint, almost invisible. But luminol lit it up like stars. The DNA results came back days later. The hair in Emily's hand? A perfect match for Ryan Caldwell. For investigators, the pieces were falling into place. But Ryan wasn't ready to surrender. In fact, what he did next would leave the entire community reeling. With DNA linking him to the crime, detectives prepared to bring Ryan Caldwell in. But when they arrived at his apartment, he was gone. The door was unlocked. The lights were off. Inside, they found a half-packed duffel bag on the bed, clothes scattered across the floor, and his wallet left behind. It looked like he had left in a hurry. A manhunt began immediately. Patrol cars fanned across Missoula. Roadblocks were set up along the interstate. Helicopters scanned the snowy backroads leading into the mountains. Ryan knew the terrain well. Friends said he often bragged that he could disappear into the woods for weeks if he wanted to. For 3 days, the city held its breath. College classes were half empty. Parents kept their children indoors. Posters with Ryan's face, dark hair, piercing blue eyes, 6'2" were plastered across town. Detectives described him as armed, dangerous, and desperate. But then on the 4th day there was a break. A hunter reported seeing a man matching Ryan's description near Rattlesnake National Recreation Area, a dense forest just north of Missoula. Search teams rushed in. What followed was a slow, methodical sweep through snow-covered trees, every step deliberate. At dawn, a canine unit picked up his scent near a frozen creek. They followed it half a mile before spotting a figure slumped against a tree. It was Ryan. He was alive but barely. Hypothermia had set in. In his lap was a note, scribbled on torn notebook paper, confessing to Emily's murder. The final line read, "If I couldn't have her, no one could." Ryan was arrested and taken to the hospital under guard. Within days, he was formally charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. The trial that followed gripped Montana. Prosecutors laid out a chilling timeline. Ryan had waited near the park, stalking Emily as she walked home. He attacked her, dragging her off the path. When she fought back, she clawed at him, leaving the strand of hair in her hand. After killing her, he staged the scene and returned home, trying to create the illusion of a quiet night in. The defense attempted to paint Ryan as mentally unstable, arguing diminished capacity. But the jury saw through it. After just 6 hours of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty on all counts. In a packed courtroom, Emily's family wept as the judge delivered Ryan's sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Ryan showed no emotion. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, as though even then he refused to accept defeat. For Missoula, the resolution was bittersweet. Justice was served, but the loss remained raw. At a memorial on campus, Emily's professors spoke of her compassion. Her classmates left roses on the steps of the nursing school. A plaque in her honor still hangs there today. Emily Parker's story is one of light extinguished too soon, a reminder that obsession left unchecked can turn deadly. And while the verdict closed one chapter, the scars of that December night remain etched in the heart of a community that never saw it coming. Cases like Emily Parker's highlight a disturbing truth: obsession doesn't happen overnight. It builds, slowly, quietly, until it consumes everything. Ryan Caldwell showed the classic markers of a controlling partner. At first charm, then dependency. He wanted Emily close, but not as an equal, more as something he could own. Psychologists often call this coercive control a pattern where love twists into surveillance, jealousy, and domination. When Emily left, Ryan's behavior escalated. Research shows that the most dangerous time for victims of abusive relationships is after they walk away. Why? Because control is threatened. To someone like Ryan, the breakup wasn't rejection, it was humiliation, a blow to his identity. His messages, pleading at first, then threatening, fit what experts describe as the cycle of obsession. Stage 1, persuasion. Stage 2, anger. Stage 3, fixation. By the time Emily started feeling watched, Ryan was already living in that fixation, rehearsing what he might do. His decision to stalk her, to wait in the park that night, reveals another layer: predatory patience. Instead of an impulsive attack, he planned. He chose a dark, isolated route. He waited until she was alone. That methodical preparation is common in offenders with high possessive traits. The note found in the woods, confessing, "If I couldn't have her, no one could," captures his psychology in one line. This is what forensic experts call pathological ownership. In Ryan's mind, Emily wasn't a partner, she was property. And when property slips away, the violent act becomes, in his logic, a final act of possession. Ryan's calm demeanor during questioning also fits the profile. Many controlling personalities lack empathy. They don't break down in tears even when confronted with evidence. Instead, they calculate. They try to manipulate investigators the same way they once manipulated their victims. In court, his silence spoke volumes. No apology. No remorse. Just the blank stare of someone who never saw his actions as wrong, only as inevitable. For psychologists, Ryan's case is both textbook and chilling. Textbook in its warning signs: jealousy, surveillance, escalating threats. Chilling in how often those signs are ignored until it's too late. Emily's story underscores a crucial truth for anyone listening. Controlling behavior is not romance. Jealousy is not proof of love. Possession is not devotion. They are red flags, and left unchecked, they can end exactly as they did here in tragedy. Emily Parker's life was full of promise. A daughter, a friend, a nurse in training who wanted nothing more than to help others. She should have had decades ahead of her: graduations, weddings, children, quiet mornings, and loud laughter. Instead, her story ended in a snowy park because of one man's obsession. Her case reminds us that behind every headline is a human being, and behind every act of violence is a choice. Ryan Caldwell chose control. He chose possession. And in the end, he chose murder. But justice at least caught up with him. Emily's name now lives on at her university. Her memory, carried by those who loved her, has become a symbol of resilience in a city that still feels her absence. For us, her story is more than tragedy, it's a warning. A reminder of how fragile safety is, and how quickly love can be twisted into something unrecognizable. And this case is only one of many. If Emily's story moved you, don't let it end here. Subscribe. What do you think? Was Ryan's obsession always destined to end in violence? Or could intervention have saved Emily's life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the truth isn't just about what happened. It's about what could have been stopped.